name is Eleanor, and I've spent my entire life taking care of others. I raised 3 children, worked as a nurse for over 30 years, and when my husband passed away 5 years ago, I thought I'd finally have some time to myself. Time to travel, join that book club I'd been eyeing, maybe even take up watercolor painting. But life has a funny way of keeping you busy, especially when your family still sees you as nothing more than free childcare. It all started when my son Thomas and his wife Allison had their twins, Lily and Lucas. They were beautiful children, and I was over the moon to be a grandmother. I'd visit whenever I could, bringing little gifts and spending hours rocking them to sleep. I cherished those early days, holding their tiny bodies against mine, breathing in that sweet baby smell that brought back memories of when my own children were small. When the twins turned 1, Thomas and Allison both went back to work full-time. They hired a part-time nanny, but they also asked if I could help out occasionally. Of course, I said yes. They're my grandchildren after all, and I love spending time with them. But occasionally quickly turned into 3 days a week, every week. I didn't mind at first. I adore those little ones. But soon I found myself canceling my own plans to accommodate their schedules. My book club, my morning walks with friends, my volunteer work at the hospital, all of it took a backseat to babysitting. Still, I never complained. That's just what grandmothers do, right? We sacrifice for our families. We put others first. We don't make waves. That all changed last Sunday when Thomas and Allison invited me over for dinner. I thought it was just a casual family meal, maybe to thank me for all the help I'd been giving them. I even brought a homemade apple pie, the twins' favorite. We had a lovely dinner. The twins were particularly well behaved, and I felt that warm glow of family around me. After we finished eating and the kids were playing in the living room, Thomas cleared his throat and exchanged a look with Allison. "Mom," he started, his voice oddly formal, "we wanted to talk to you about the childcare situation." I nodded, taking a sip of my tea. "Of course, dear. Do you need me to watch the twins on different days? I can be flexible." Allison gave me that thin smile of hers, the one that never quite reaches her eyes. "Actually, Eleanor, we've been thinking that maybe it's time to get a full-time nanny." "Oh?" I set my cup down, feeling a small pang of disappointment but trying not to show it. "Well, that makes sense. The twins are getting more active now." "Yes, exactly," Thomas jumped in, looking relieved that I seemed to be taking it well. "They're running everywhere, climbing on everything. It's a lot to handle." I smiled. They certainly keep me on my toes. But I don't mind, it's good exercise. That's when Allison tilted her head and gave me that look, the one that makes me feel like I'm a child who doesn't understand basic concepts. "The thing is, Eleanor," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "we just don't think you can keep up anymore. The twins need someone with more energy." I blinked, the words hitting me like a slap. "I'm sorry?" Thomas looked uncomfortable but pressed on. "What Allison means is that at your age it might be too much. The twins are really active now and we're concerned about your health." "My health?" I repeated, feeling my cheeks flush. "I'm 65, not 95. I still do yoga 3 times a week." Allison reached across the table and patted my hand patronizingly. "And that's wonderful, but we just feel like someone younger would be better equipped to handle 2 toddlers. We need someone who can run after them in the park, get down on the floor to play, and lift them both at once if necessary." "I do all those things," I said quietly, pulling my hand away. "Yes, but for how long?" Thomas asked, not unkindly. "We're thinking long-term here, Mom. The twins are only going to get more energetic." I sat there, stunned into silence. All this time, I thought I was doing a good job. The twins were always clean, fed, and happy when their parents came home. We did puzzles, read books, built block towers. I even took them to the park every day, rain or shine. Allison must have mistaken my silence for agreement because she smiled again, this time with obvious relief. "We're so glad you understand. It's not that we don't appreciate everything you've done. It's just that we think it's time for someone more capable." The word capable hung in the air between us like a knife. I felt something inside me shift, a small spark of anger that I usually kept carefully contained. "And when did you come to this conclusion?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. Thomas fidgeted with his napkin. We've been discussing it for a while now. Our friend Jen recommended a nanny agency that specializes in high-energy childcare providers. You know, young people with backgrounds in early childhood education and physical training. So, I've been doing it wrong all this time? I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. No, no, Thomas hurried to say. You've been great, Mom, really. The kids love you. We just think you're too old to keep up, Allison finished with that same plastic smile. It's nothing personal. Nothing personal. As if telling someone they're too old, too slow, too incapable isn't the most personal thing you could say. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised, hoping to see some recognition of how hurtful this was, but he just nodded along with his wife, avoiding my eyes. For a moment, I considered arguing, pointing out all the ways I was perfectly capable of caring for my grandchildren. I thought about reminding them how I'd never once called in sick, never complained about last-minute schedule changes, never asked for a dime in return for hours of childcare. But what was the point? They'd made up their minds. I was too old. End of story. So I just nodded and said, I see. Well, I wish you luck finding someone suitable. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I helped clean up, kissed the twins goodnight, and drove home in silence, tears threatening to spill the entire way. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept turning their words over in my head. Too old, can't keep up, need someone more capable. It stung, not just because it felt unfair, but because deep down I wondered if they were right. Was I fooling myself? Was I not as spry as I thought? The next morning I woke up with swollen eyes, but a clearer mind. I decided that maybe this was a blessing in disguise. I'd been putting my own life on hold for nearly a year, canceling plans and rearranging my schedule to accommodate their needs. Now I could finally focus on myself again. I called Susan, an old friend I'd been neglecting, and we made plans for lunch. I signed up for a watercolor class I'd been eyeing for months. I even booked a weekend trip to the coast, something I'd never have been able to do if I was still on childcare duty. For the first time in years, my calendar was filling up with things I wanted to do, not obligations to others. It felt strange at first, almost selfish. But gradually, I started to enjoy the freedom. Thomas called a few times that week, but our conversations were stilted. He'd ask how I was doing, and I'd tell him about my new class or my lunch with Susan. He seemed surprised that I had a life outside of babysitting his children, which only reinforced that I'd made the right decision in accepting their choice without a fight. The twins miss you, he said during one call. Maybe you could come over for dinner again this Sunday. I agreed, but with mixed feelings. Part of me was excited to see the twins, but another part dreaded facing Allison again so soon after being dismissed as incapable. As it turned out, I didn't have to wait until Sunday. Exactly 2 weeks after that fateful dinner, my phone rang at 7:30 in the morning. It was Allison, which was unusual in itself. She typically communicated with me through Thomas. I answered, curious about what could prompt her to call so early. Eleanor? Her voice sounded different. Tight, almost panicked. I need your help. I sat up in bed, immediately concerned. What's wrong? Are the twins okay? They're fine, she said quickly. But Melissa quit. Melissa? The nanny. The perfect, young, energetic nanny. Her voice rose with each word. She just texted me this morning saying she got a better offer and won't be coming in. Ever. She's not even giving notice. Oh, I said, processing this information. That's unfortunate. It's a disaster, Allison continued. I have a huge client meeting I can't reschedule, and Thomas is out of town until tomorrow. There's no one else who can watch the twins on such short notice. I could hear the desperation in her voice, and for a moment, I felt a surge of sympathy. Being left in the lurch is never easy, especially when childcare is involved. Then I remembered her words from 2 weeks ago. Too old, can't keep up, need someone more capable. What about that agency? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Surely they can send a replacement. I tried, she wailed. They don't have anyone available today. Please, Eleanor, I'm begging you. Just for today. I'll pay you, of course. Pay me. As if that had ever been an issue. As if I had ever asked for a single cent for the joy of spending time with my grandchildren. I took a deep breath, considering my options. I could say yes, of course. I could cancel my watercolor class, postpone my lunch with Susan, and rush over to save the day. That's what I would have done in the past without a second thought. But something had shifted in me over the past 2 weeks. A realization that my time was valuable too, that I deserved respect, not just to be used when convenient and discarded when not. "I'm afraid I can't, Allison," I said calmly. "What do you mean, you can't?" The panic in her voice gave way to disbelief. "You don't have a job. What could you possibly have planned that's so important?" And there it was, the assumption that because I was retired, my time wasn't valuable. That my plans didn't matter. "I have a watercolor class this morning," I said, "and lunch with a friend afterward." "A painting class?" she repeated incredulously. "You can reschedule a painting class? This is an emergency." "It's already paid for. Non-refundable," I replied, though that wasn't the point. And I'd been looking forward to it. "Eleanor, please," she begged, her voice softening. "The twins love you. They've been asking for Grandma just this once." The mention of the twins pulled at my heart. I did miss them terribly. But I also remembered the look on Allison's face when she told me I was too old to care for them. "I'm sorry, Allison," I said, my voice firm but kind. "I'm afraid I'm too old to keep up with them. You said so yourself. I wouldn't want to put the twins at risk with my inadequate care." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. That's not fair," she finally stammered. "We were just thinking about what's best for the twins." "And I'm sure you'll find the best solution for today as well," I said. "I need to start getting ready for my class now. Give the twins a kiss from me." I hung up before she could respond, my heart pounding in my chest. I'd never stood up to Allison before, never directly challenged her dismissive treatment of me. It felt terrifying and exhilarating all at once. My phone immediately started ringing again. "Allison." I let it go to voicemail. Then came the texts, increasingly desperate. "Please, I'm sorry if what I said hurt your feeling. The twins really miss you." Right? I don't know what I'm going to do. "Eleanor, this is serious. I could lose my job if I miss this meeting." I read each one, feeling a mixture of guilt and vindication. Part of me wanted to relent, to be the bigger person and help despite her treatment of me, but another part, a stronger part, knew that if I gave in now, nothing would ever change. Finally, Thomas called. I picked up, prepared for him to be angry. "Mom," he said, his voice tight with stress, "Allison told me what happened. I understand you're upset about what we said, but this is about the twins. They need someone today." "I know," I said softly, "and I'm sorry they're in this situation, but I have plans today that I'm not willing to cancel." "Plans?" he echoed, sounding just like his wife. "What plans could be more important than family?" "My plans are important to me, Thomas," I replied, "just as your plans and Allison's plans are important to you. I spent a year rearranging my life to accommodate your schedules, and 2 weeks ago I was told I wasn't good enough anymore. Today, I'm choosing to prioritize myself." There was a long pause. When Thomas spoke again, his voice was different, less demanding, more reflective. "I never realized how much you were sacrificing for us," he said quietly. "I guess I just assumed, I don't know, that you didn't have much else going on." His words stung, but at least he was being honest. "I'm a whole person, Thomas," I said, "with my own interests and friends and life. Being a grandmother is a part of who I am and one I cherish, but it's not all I am." Another pause. Then, "I'm sorry, Mom. For what it's worth, I think Allison went too far with the too old comments. You've always taken excellent care of the twins." It wasn't a full apology, but it was something, a crack in the wall letting in a sliver of light. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "It means a lot." "So, you really won't help today?" he asked, a last attempt. "Not today," I confirmed, "but maybe we can talk when you get back, figure out a way forward that respects everyone's needs." "Okay," he sighed. "I'll tell Allison. Enjoy your watercolor class, I guess?" I did enjoy my class, every minute of it. I painted a sunrise over water with colors that bled into each other in ways I couldn't control but found beautiful nonetheless. Afterwards, Susan and I had a lovely lunch, talking and laughing like we used to before my babysitting duties took over my life. Throughout the day, I wondered how Allison had managed. Had she found another sitter, called in sick, taken the twins to her meeting? I felt twinges of guilt, but I pushed them aside. This wasn't about punishing her or the twins. It was about establishing boundaries I should have set long ago. That evening, Thomas called again. He'd caught an earlier flight home after Allison had to cancel her meeting. He sounded tired, but not angry. "Can we talk?" he asked. "All of us, I mean. Maybe Saturday? We owe you a proper apology." I agreed, feeling cautiously optimistic. That Saturday, I arrived at their house with a tentative heart. The twins ran to me immediately, wrapping their arms around my legs and chattering about everything I'd missed. I hugged them tightly, realizing just how much I'd missed them too. Allison approached more slowly, her usual confidence dimmed. "Thank you for coming," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. We sat at the kitchen table after the twins were settled with their toys. Thomas started. "Mom, what we said to you was disrespectful and hurtful. We labeled you as too old without appreciating everything you've done for us and the twins. We're truly sorry." Allison nodded, looking genuinely remorseful. "I was so focused on finding the perfect childcare solution that I didn't see how I was treating you as disposable. I'm sorry, Eleanor. You've been more help than we deserved." "Thank you," I said, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "That means a lot to me." "We've been talking," Thomas continued, "and we realize we can't keep taking advantage of your time. The agency is sending a new nanny next week, but we'd love it if you could still be involved with the twins regularly." "Maybe Sunday dinners," Allison suggested, "and perhaps one afternoon a week if it fits with your schedule. We want the twins to have a relationship with you that isn't just about childcare." I smiled, touched by their effort. "I'd like that very much." "And," Thomas added, "we'd like to pay you for all the hours you've put in over the past year. It's long overdue." I shook my head. "That's not necessary. I never wanted payment for spending time with my grandchildren. I just wanted respect for my time and capabilities." "We understand that now," Allison said softly. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how a small act of standing up for myself had led to such a significant shift in our family dynamic. For years, I'd believed that being a good mother and grandmother meant always putting others first, never complaining, never saying no. But sometimes, saying no is the most loving thing you can do, not just for yourself, but for everyone. By setting boundaries, I'd not only reclaimed my own sense of worth, but had also taught my son and daughter-in-law an important lesson about respect and appreciation. The twins still run to me with open arms when I visit. I still read them stories and take them to the park. But now, when I leave to attend my watercolor class or meet friends for lunch, there's no guilt, no implicit expectation that I should be doing more. Instead, there's a newfound understanding that loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. It means building relationships where everyone is valued, respected, and seen as a whole person no matter their age.